From passenger pigeons and wolves to Barbary lions and Tasmanian tigers, here are 18 animals that went extinct in the 20th century. Number 18. Sea mink, early 20th century. This creature was closely related to the present-day American mink and belonged to the same family that includes weasels and wolverines. Until going the way of the dodo, they roamed the rocky coasts of New England. Their large, heavy build made them a target for fur traders, who found them more desirable than other mink species found further inland. Unregulated trade eventually led to the animal's extinction sometime in the early 20th century. Number 17. Japanese wolf, 1905. It's also known as the Honshu wolf because it was endemic to that island, among others in the Japanese archipelago. It was a subspecies of grey wolf that was smaller than its relatives in North America and other parts of Asia. The last of these animals was caught and killed in 1905. Did you know these wolves had a long history of being hunted? That was due to their behaviour of preying on horses. When rabies spread from dogs to the wolf population in the 18th century, the infected animals gained a reputation as man-killers. As a result, Japan made killing wolves a national policy. After that, it only took a single generation to eradicate them. Number 16. Passenger pigeon, 1914. When explorers first arrived in North America, up to 5 billion passenger pigeons were thought to inhabit the continent. An influx of settlers contributed to massive deforestation, which destroyed the birds' habitat and rapidly decreased their numbers. Their extinction was also hastened by widespread hunting after pigeon meat was commercialized as a cheap food source. The final passenger pigeon in the wild was thought to have been shot in 1901. The last specimen in captivity died at the Cincinnati Zoo in 1914. Number 15. Paradise parrot, 1927. Even by parrot standards, the colours of this bird's plumage was said to be striking. The colours included aqua, scarlet, turquoise and black. The medium-sized parrots inhabited the border area of Queensland and New South Wales in Australia. Although they were said to be rapid flyers, the birds spent most of their time on the ground. Maybe that made them easier prey for introduced mammals like cats and dogs. Overgrazing along with overhunting by bird collectors are other reasons cited for the sudden decline of this species. The exact cause of their extinction has never been determined, but one thing is for sure, the last living specimen was documented in 1927, and no trace of them has been found since. Did you know this is the only Australian parrot recorded as vanishing and going extinct? Number 14. Bali tiger, 1938. This population was found only on the Indonesian island of Bali and was last documented in the wild in 1938. But it's possible that some individuals managed to survive into the 1950s. It was first described in 1912 and is regarded as a smaller subspecies of tigers. Males could weigh up to 220 pounds, 100 kilograms, and measured about 91 inches, that's 230 centimeters, from head to tip of the tail. That would have made them about the size of a leopard or cougar. Experts say their habitat included mangrove forests and savannas, where they mainly preyed on large deer. The cats were aggressively hunted by Dutch colonizers and locals who perceived the animals as threats. These animals were thought to be related to Javan tigers, which were also found in Indonesia, and are thought to have gone extinct about the same time. Number 13. Cape Verde giant skink, 1940. Skinks are lizards that occur in a wide variety of terrains, from grasslands to mountains and deserts. There are more than 1,500 known species, but this is no longer one of them. It was found in the Cape Verde Islands in the Atlantic Ocean, with a body length measuring about 13 inches, 32 centimeters, and a tail equally long. It was considerably larger than the average skink. They disappeared in the wild in 1940. Experts say that factors including prolonged drought and overhunting led to their extinction. Number 12. Xerxes blue, early 1940s. These colourful butterflies were found flying about the coastal sand dunes of the San Francisco Peninsula. It was last seen at the Golden Gate Recreational Center in either 1941 or 1943, depending on the source cited. Experts say that these critters fell prey to an invasive ant species that arrived on vehicles from the east. That, along with urban development destroying their habitats, contributed to their extinction. Number 11. Caribbean monk seal, 1952. The last documented sighting of this marine mammal occurred in the early 1950s. They had been hunted aggressively for their meat, fur, and oil for ages. European explorers started that tradition in the late 15th century, and it was carried on by commercial fishermen and whalers. In addition to being overhunted, the animals suffered from destruction of their traditional habitats. Locations in the Caribbean Sea and in the Gulf of Mexico were altered by fishing operations and coastal development, and that accelerated their extinction by 1952. Number 10. The thick-tailed chub, 1957. At one time, these were among the most common fish in California. These minnow-like critters were abundant in lakes, ponds, and backwaters of the state's Central Valley. Before being heavily exploited by commercial fishermen, the thick-tailed chub was a staple food of native Indian peoples of the region. The heavy-bodied fish could measure 10 inches long, 25 centimeters, and had a common name inspired by their stout tails. Experts attribute their disappearance to habitat destruction as the Central Valley was converted for agricultural purposes. The last known specimen was caught in 1957. Number 9. Lesser bilby, 1960s. This marsupial from Australia had cute looks that hid an aggressive nature. Living in the deserts, it resembled a juvenile rabbit with its long ears and a tail almost as long as its body. But it had a nasty reputation for hissing and snapping at anyone who tried to handle it. Like its surviving relatives, this was a strictly nocturnal animal that fed on insects, roots, and seeds. Sometimes they even fed on rodents introduced to its habitat. Even though they were discovered in the late 19th century, very little info was ever collected on their range and distribution, and they were rarely encountered. Introduced foreign predators like cats and foxes were a big reason for their extinction by the 1960s. Number 8. Barbary lion, mid-1960s. This subspecies of lion had a reported weight that exceeded 600 pounds or 300 kilograms. Measuring more than 9 feet, 2.7 meters from head to tail, some sources regarded this beast as the largest lion in the wild. They were found in several range countries of the Atlas Mountains in northwestern Africa. That included Morocco, Algeria, and the Barbary Coast. It's speculated that colder mountain temperatures may have caused some specimens to grow unusually long manes. The last known Barbary lion was reportedly shot and killed in 1942. Locals claim to see small populations of them into the mid-1960s, which is often regarded as the time they would have gone extinct in the wild. Number 7. Mexican grizzly bear, 1964. As the common name suggests, these animals were found in Mexico around the northern grasslands and pine forests. They were a species of brown bear that weighed about 700 pounds, 318 kilograms, and measured about 6 feet long, 1.8 meters. While smaller than its grizzly cousins in the US and Canada, it's still ranked as one of Mexico's largest and heaviest animals. Spanish conquistadors encountered the beast in the 16th century. While the conquistadors apparently left the bears alone, farmers did not. They regarded the animals as pests that killed their cattle. That led to the grizzlies being shot, poisoned, and trapped. By 1930, less than 3 dozen individuals remained. By 1964, the species was declared extinct. Number 6. TECOPA pupfish, 1970. A fish living in the desert sounds kind of like an oxymoron, but the late TECOPA pupfish called the Mojave Desert its home. It was endemic to a pair of hot springs there, and the critter was heat tolerant enough to thrive in water temperatures up to 108 degrees Fahrenheit, 42 degrees Celsius or greater. But the hot springs became such a popular attraction that bathhouses were constructed and the hot springs were diverted. The disruption of their habitat along with the introduction of foreign species led to their extinction. The last confirmed specimens were documented in 1970. Number 5. Round Island burrowing boa, 1975. This reptile was endemic to the same island nation as the long-extinct dodo. That's Mauritius, located in the Indian Ocean. It was a smaller snake that measured less than 3.5 feet long, 1 meter, and was non-venomous. Experts say it lived in hardwood forests and had a very limited range of about 370 acres or 1.5 square kilometers. It occurred on various islands, but survived the longest on Round Island. The last sighting of the snake was documented in 1975. Number 4. The coupray, 1983. Most sources consider this animal to be extinct because the last confirmed sightings happened in 1983. Weighing more than 2,000 pounds, that's 910 kilograms, and standing more than 6 feet high, 1.9 meters at the shoulder, that seemed difficult to miss. These lesser-known wild bovines were found in the forests of Southeast Asia and are related to the massive guar. Subsequent surveys to locate any remaining individuals have failed, and none are known to exist in captivity. Habitat loss and overhunting for their meat and horns are factors in their decline. Number 3. Gastric brooding frog, mid-1980s. This frog from Eastern Australia was unique for its bizarre method of breeding. It was one of only 2 species known where the offspring were incubated in the mother's stomach. After the males externally fertilized the eggs, the female swallowed them. The tadpoles developed in the mother's belly, during which time she wouldn't eat. At maturation, the hatchlings were regurgitated over the course of several days. Both species of this animal were thought to have gone extinct sometime in the mid-1980s. Number 2. Golden toad, 1989. Most sources agree that as a group, amphibians might be the world's most endangered animals. They're especially vulnerable to human predation, fungal diseases, and habitat destruction. That ties in with the golden toad because it became the de facto poster child for the amphibian decline. First discovered in 1964, it was endemic to a small region of cloud forest in Costa Rica. Between the time of its discovery and its disappearance, the toad was depicted on posters promoting the country's biodiversity. The last reported sighting of a single male specimen occurred in 1989 and was later officially declared extinct. Number 1. The Tasmanian tiger, 1936. We'll break with our mostly chronological order for the number 1 position. That's because thylacine, or the Tasmanian tiger, is probably the best known name on the list. Despite being called a tiger, it wasn't related to any species of cat. The nickname was a reference to the dark stripes on the animal's lower back. The critter weighed about 70 pounds, 32 kilograms, and measured more than 6 feet long, 1.9 meters. That made it one of the largest carnivorous marsupials known to date. In addition to Tasmania, thylacine also occurred on the Australian mainland and in New Guinea. Their extinction has been linked to several factors, including disease, habitat destruction, and bounty hunting. The last known specimen died at Tasmania's Hobart Zoo in 1936. Even so, unverified reports of thylacine sightings have persisted into the 21st century. Did the marsupials somehow survive? Tell us what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button and click the bell for notifications for our next exciting episode right here on Epic Wildlife.